This is The Neutral Position, hosted by Nick Palmisano, bringing honesty and reason back into conversation. Here's your host, Nick Palmisano.
Unpleasant or repulsive, especially in appearance. Adjective. The word is ugly. No, we're not trying to describe your mom or that terrible spring break decision you made back in the day. We're talking about the most heinous, eye-bending, gag-inducing dog chew on the planet. We're talking about ugly chews. To you and me, ugly chews are nothing to look at. You see, when you take cowhide, clean it by hand, and sun cure it with no chemicals, it doesn't look like a cute dog bone or rawhide, but it also doesn't sit in your dog's stomach forever or cause digestion issues. So while we see a hairy mess that we don't want to touch in any way, shape, or form, your dog, the natural predator that he or she is, yes, even Mitzi the toy poodle has some wolf DNA in there. That dog just sees gorgeous, delicious, healthy nature. So when you're at the pet store scanning the aisle or you're online ordering the next tasty morsel for your canine companion to gnaw on, are you buying that cute bone or that rubber toy for you or for your dog? Because in your dog's world, that pretty, chemical-filled, tied in an adorable bow treat is a 6 out of 10. Tops. It's fine, it'll do, but it doesn't inspire. Why? Because to your dog, it's not natural at all. It's foreign. It's manufactured. It's a frozen dinner when you really want a perfectly cooked steak. In short, it's just not ugly enough. So if you want to give your dog the experience of a lifetime while Dreamweaver plays and the world moves in glorious slow motion, then get your dog an Ugly Chew at uglychews.com. That's uglychews.com. Hey guys, welcome to The Neutral Position. I'm Nick Palmisano, and it is an honor to have Lou Torres, or Kelsey, help me out here. If we were in Puerto Rico, what would we say?
It's
Luis Torres.
Torres.
If we were in Puerto Rico. Okay. Fellow entrepreneur, started around the same time I did, a couple years after I did, and sir, you make Coco Chrissy Tropical Ices.
Yes, sir.
Which I have to tell you is not a normal company to start.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that?
Okay, well, Coco Chrissy Tropical Ices is the name of the company, which is named after my sons, Carmelo and Christian. Carmelo is Coco. He's 18 years old now.
Two Scots-Irish kids?
Well, no, no. Actually, well, what is it? Irish twins, because they're no, that's me and my brother. We're 10 months apart. No, but Christian and Carmelo. Christian is Chrissy, Chrissy boy. He's 21 now, though. We don't call him Chrissy. And Carmelo is Coco. He couldn't say Carmelo when he was little, so Coco was the first thing that came out of his mouth when he pronounced his name. That's where I came up with the name.
That's
Coco
awesome.
Chrissy Tropical Ices. But what it is, it's a New York style Italian ice push cart vending business.
So what do you know about New York?
Well, I grew up in New York. I grew up in the city, in the Bronx, New York. Humble beginnings. 2-bedroom apartment. My brothers and I and my sister shared a bedroom. My mom was in the other room, and grew up on the 14th floor. But we didn't know that we didn't have money at the time, because Mom made our home feel like a mansion full of love. But one thing as a child that I remember vividly was when the icy guy would come around the neighborhood, or we're out and around in the boulevard, and it's a hot summer day, and you hear the bells ringing, and it was the Italian ice vendor. But in Spanish Harlem, or in the city, it's known as coquito, which is the Spanish version of the Italian ice.
Gotcha.
And that's what I grew up on. So we're going to fast forward to 2007.
So what's the difference?
Great question.
That's why I do this. It's those hard questions like that.
Well, the flavors that I carry right now is coconut, passion fruit, mango, strawberry, blue raspberry, lemon, cherry, sour apple, and strawberry. I don't know if I said strawberry. So it's 8 flavors. But the traditional Italian ice flavors in New York City is cherry and lemon. Mm-hmm. Chocolate also, but I don't make chocolate. I can. But the Puerto Rican Latin version of the Italian ice is mango, coconut, passion fruit. Now, if you go to Puerto Rico, same guy pushing the cart, it's a different texture. It's almost, it's the same texture, but it's a little bit more flavorful, a little creamier based. So there is a slight difference between the two, but I refer to my ice as Italian ice. But when I do my Spanish festivals, I do the Spanish ices.
I got you.
So back to how did I start it? So as a kid, I loved the Italian ice. And I went to work for corporate right after college. And my background's in software sales. And I was doing well for myself in my mid to late 20s.
Yep.
But there was a point where I was sitting in my office looking outside the window, and it was a nice, pretty day. And I had no fulfillment where I was.
Sure. Yeah, I know
The
that.
money was good.
Yep.
You know, the title was great.
Yep.
But I was like, man, I want to be outside. I want to do that. I want to be out there.
I know where you're heading with this.
Yes.
But I got to ask.
Yeah.
How was your mom's reaction? Because I know, I mean, it could. So I am the son of immigrants, and my parents worked very hard to get us to middle class. Worked very hard. So when I then had this great corporate gig, making a lot of money, essentially like made it.
Yep.
And I was like, I think I'm going to quit all this to sell T-shirts.
Yeah.
You know, they were supportive eventually. You know, I mean, I shouldn't say that. They were always supportive, but they definitely asked a lot of hard questions. Like, are you sure this is what you want to do?
Yeah.
How was your mom?
Oh, no, the opposite. You know, my mom is my biggest cheerleader. And
So she was like, go for it.
pretty much.
Didn't worry about like missing out on the big job or anything.
No, not at all, because she did that one time when I was 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually kind of what molded me into who I am now as an entrepreneur and as a salesman. Because I didn't go to college right after high school.
Yep.
We didn't have the money to go. So I sat out for 2 years. My first job at 18 years old was selling vacuum cleaners door to door in New York.
That's hard.
Electrolux. Yeah, it's super hard.
Yeah.
This was in 1996, and I'm trying to convince you, I'm knocking on your door, and I'm trying to convince you to buy a $1,000 vacuum in 1996 when you think your vacuum works. So I went home and I told Mom, hey, I got a job. She says, oh yeah, what are you doing? I said, well, I'll be selling vacuums door to door. And she said, that's a BS job, and you're gonna waste your time, and you're gonna. So I used that as motivation to prove her wrong. And that's the first and only time in my life that she ever doubted me. And that first month, I put my head down and I grinded out. And I sold 36 vacuums that month, which made me the #1 sales rep in New York State.
Wow.
As a beginner salesman.
Wow.
And at 18 years old, I made over $10,000. I blew it probably the following month. And I never sold 36 vacuums after that.
10 grand in 1996
That's a lot of money.
That's
man.
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
But what that experience did for me, because I stayed for about a year, it exposed me to sales and a commission-based job where sky was the limit.
Yep.
Not just this is how much I'm going to make every week,
Yep.
or this is how much I'm going to make every hour. But if she didn't doubt me, that would not have pushed me to go as hard as I did. So now we fast forward to I'm starting a new company or new business, and I didn't completely walk away from corporate right away.
Oh yeah.
Because it was a weekend job. So fast forward in 2007 is when I was sitting at my office and looking out the window and just saying to myself, man, I want to be outside. I don't want to be in here. Mm-hmm. I'm watching the corporate politics, the favoritisms, everybody high-fiving each other. I'm like, wait, I did the same good job.
Yeah.
I'm not getting the same treatment. This is crap.
Yep.
Really, that was motivation for me. And that night, I went home and I prayed. And I said, Lord, I want to run my own business. What do I do? Prior to that, there was no reason for me to say that. But I was sitting in my office, looking outside. I was like, man, I want to be out there. And I woke up the next morning, true story, sat at the foot of the bed, and the first thing that came out of my mouth was ices. Not snow cones, not ice cream. When I said ices, it's as if God literally just spoke in my ear and said, ices. And I knew it was the Italian ice that I grew up on in New York City, in the Bronx. I don't know if I told you that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
So I knew at that moment that if I brought the Italian ice down south, because at the time nobody was doing it, that it will be successful. Because there's no demographic for the ices, whether you're white, black, Spanish, old, young, rich, poor.
Delicious is delicious.
Delicious.
Yeah.
And but that was in 2007. My shirt says 2009, established in 2009. Well, the reason why It's because 2 years went by and I talked a good game of what I was about to do.
Yeah.
But fear and procrastination stopped me from moving forward. I mean, I had a corporate job. I was married. I had 2 young boys. I was the sole breadwinner of the home. It was hard to just walk away from that to pursue something I had no idea if it was going to succeed or not. In theory, it was going to.
Yep. But there's also evidence that if you start telling people what you're going to do, you get the same dopamine hit of actually doing it. And it actually typically results in you not taking action. So, people that coach, in excellence actually tell people, don't tell anybody other than the critical folks and just start executing.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to talk about my plan. It's a lot harder, as you know, to execute.
Yep.
It's crazy how similar your backgrounds are, which is why I knew. But it's also for me too. I mean, you guys not finding that fulfillment in your corporate gigs, and that was the same for me. I was getting further away from, like I shared with you guys, what I wanted to be doing or learning even more about, and I was just finding nothing about it until I just decided to ice it out and come back here and start all over again.
For me, it was more like when I was in college, the first time, I felt like I was growing. Mm-hmm. Then when I was in the military, I felt like I was growing, and I was always doing something new, and like I was improving myself and learning. And then, grad school was like, okay, it was all right. I got a few things out of it. I wouldn't say that, it was like top of the list of great experiences. But then in corporate, I kind of felt like after the first year or so, it was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to get a lot more or if I just have to get good at the game. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel like I as a person was leaping forward. And in the, even though it sounds smaller to people that haven't created a business, the act of trying to sell T-shirts was so much harder than anything I did in a Fortune 100 company making a small fortune. Like, it was so much harder because people only buy their first choice. They only buy something they really want. Otherwise, like, if they just kind of like your icy, they'll just walk to the next stand of something else. Yep. They have to like it, which means you have to be good at it. So talk about that a little bit. Like, what did it feel like to finally start?
So 2 years went by and I made no moves towards what I said I was going to do. Mm-hmm. And in 2009, God spoke to me again and scolded me like a father scolding his kid who didn't take out the trash. If you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to give your blessing to somebody else.
And how did you receive that message? Like,
I received it as if my father on earth or my mother was telling me, Louis, if you don't take out that trash or you don't make your room.
Now, I have to ask for Kelsey. Was it Lou or Luis?
So Louis is New York.
Yep.
Louis was in, if you go back to the Bronx or Newburgh, everybody knows Louis.
Yeah.
18 plus is Lou. Actually, 16 to 25 was Pretty Lou.
I think you need to explain exactly why it's Pretty Lou. We'll get there in the story.
Yeah. But that was my nickname in high school and in college, but I don't know why. That was a nickname. Anyway, so back to God scolding me like a child. If you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to give your blessing to somebody else. And that's what motivated me to say, you know what? This summer I'm going to give it a shot. At least I'll give it a shot, and if it doesn't work out, then so be it. But I'm going to give it 100. And I did. So that winter, my cousin and I, we made our first push carts out of wood and some insulation, painted it red, slapped on some clip artwork on the side that looked cheesy as hell with a Walmart umbrella. But every weekend, I was at the flea market in Raleigh. It's no longer there. It was on Rock Quarry Road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that flea market.
Yep. You paid $21 for the day, and you can sell whatever you want. And I was out there every Saturday, Sunday, sampling the product, educating the customers to Italian ice, because unless you were from up north,
Yep, you haven't seen it.
you know what a snow cone is,
Yeah.
Hawaiian ice,
Yeah.
but Italian ice is totally different. So I was out there just following my vision, taste this. And when the customer will taste it, I'm like, oh, wow, this is different. Oh, let me get a cup. And in the first year, I was out there every weekend, and my goal was to make $1,000 that weekend. And that's pretty high for a startup business.
It's a lot of ice.
You know, for real, right? and to be honest, I was hitting that every weekend. And I couldn't believe, wow, I'm just selling ice at the flea market. Then I got exposed to the community by doing like certain small events. And at North Carolina Central University, there used to be a basketball tournament there that Jerry Stackhouse will host with some of his buddies, called the North Carolina Pro-Am basketball tournament. And in this tournament, you will have your ACC players who were in school at the time, NBA players, former NBA players, just come together, basically like a pickup tournament at North Carolina Central. So you could come for free.
Was it like 5-on-5?
5-on-5. It was full court. Yeah. So in New York City, there's a park called Rucker Park. Rucker is where, if you want to make a name for yourself, or you say you played somewhere, Rucker Park is like the Madison Square Garden to street basketball. So that's what they tagline the basketball tournament, North Carolina Pro-Am, the Rucker of the South. Huh. Well, Jerry Stackhouse and my fraternity brother, Earl Reese, allowed me to come and serve my ice during the games. And I will run up in the crowds, bringing them ice, taking orders, because they wouldn't come and leave their seats. So I will come and bring them the ice. Well, while I'm doing that, there's people in the community saying, hey, my church is having a function, or there's a festival in Oxford, or all these, or in my school. And they got me into the community, and that's how I built my brand in the Triangle. And now we fast forward 15 years later, we now own 14 push carts, 4 trailers, 2 trucks, 2 mobile vans. I make my own ice. We ship all over the country. You can buy it by the container. We can deliver here locally. And it all started with the flea market and just jumping out there on faith.
How do you expand? So one of the things that I think is always interesting is I'm not going to say it's easy, because nothing about small business is easy, but it's easy when it's still in the span of your control.
Yep.
But once it leaves the span of your control, once you go from cart 1 that you're running to cart 2, now things get dicey fast. How did you expand? Talk about that. Talk about the moment you decided to go to 2 carts.
Well, I mean, to be honest, when I made my first cart, I told my cousin, let's make 2 more. I didn't just start with 1. The first few weeks I was out there on my own, but I already saw ahead of time, this is going to expand. But over the years, whenever it was time to grow, my foundation is faith-based. So I'm at a point where if I'm walking in my purpose, which is to sell ices, but it's not to sell ices to make money. It's what I'm doing with the business, which we're going to talk about later with the mentoring and teaching young men and women how to think and act like entrepreneurs.
Well, talk about it. You know, what is it? What is it that drives you?
So that's exactly what's my motivation. My motivation is not to be the biggest Italian ice mobile vendor on the East Coast, even though right now I am. My motivation is that all the young men and women that come through the Coco Chrissy experience, that's what I call it, learn and think like entrepreneurs. They get a scoop, they get a cart, they get the trucks, the vans, whatever. I teach them how to do what I do while polishing the skills that I see in them and help them see things differently from a worker's perspective to a boss's perspective. So they can make decisions.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about what that is to you, because this is one of the things that I always tell people that are starting businesses. They can never understand that their employees don't see it as important as they do. And I always tell people they never will, unless you have a very special person.
Yeah.
And why would they, right? You know, the upside for them is not, even if you are very good to your employees, and I try to be, the upside is never going to be with a potential upside for you.
Yeah.
So it's not realistic to think that they're going to be as invested as you are.
Yeah.
But there is something special when an employee starts taking ownership.
Yep.
And, you know, for me, once somebody's taking ownership, it's much easier to trust them, to compensate them, to do all these other things, because you're getting a totally different work product
Yep.
than you are with somebody that is just cashing a paycheck. So explain to me what the difference is in mindset.
Well, my focus is empowerment, because a lot of the kids that work for me are young men, women. They come from a home or a background where they won't have this type of opportunity, or have been taught this mindset, and that's what I try to teach them through personal experience, through mentorship, but also through books such as The Secret, Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon, to change the way their mind thinks about money and life, so that they can change the course of their path, their road, so to speak, where their parents had a rougher road to walk down. So what I do through the company is empowerment and teach them to think and act like a boss. And by the way I do it is through the scoop, through interacting with the customers, giving them the power to take the trucks to whatever state, not even just local here. Say, okay, here you guys go. Call me unless it's an emergency. Don't call me unless it's an emergency. And to see them come back with the returns, and that they're with a positive return and a positive feedback from the vendor coordinator, that's what motivates me, because they get it. And what I tell them is that, guys, the difference between me and you is that I own the equipment. So naturally, yes, I'm going to get the majority of the money, but you guys are running a business. So that means you can do the same thing. It doesn't have to necessarily be ices. It can be anything, but I'm showing you that it's real, that you can do it.
So do they run their own P&L? Like,
No, not yet. But I explained to them, all right, this is how much it costs. This is how much we spent. This is how much you made. This is the bottom line. This is how much you get paid out. And they get a percentage of what they sell. Plus they get to keep their tips. And so these are 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, where they can make $500 to $1,000 on a weekend at a decent show.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for a kid.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a kid.
Okay.
Well, I've also seen, like, you've taken some of these, or a lot of these young men too, and they've successfully started up their own business.
Exactly.
From the practices that you've that you've implemented and taught them, and they've taken it away. I've seen so many, or your trucks around Coco Chrissy Van, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm about to run up. I'm gonna get me some icy. I'll see Luis. And it's one of his guys. Yep. And then I'll see them also at somewhere else, and they've got their own business now, and they're using the same practices with that. And
that goes back to worrying about if they see your vision, or if they're going to steal from the top, or they have their own agenda. If I worried about all of that, I will lose the little bit of hair that I have left.
Yeah, you can't.
I can't afford to do that. So, it's my purpose and my passion is to empower and grow these young men. Whether they steal or wreck my car, which they haven't done, I trust that something that was planted in them while under my wing will blossom in the future. Because I'll get about 2 years out of each guy. They'll transition out, find another job, or, graduate from college and move on, or move out of the state. But because I'm walking in my purpose and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, whenever it's time to expand and grow, it's almost like dominoes. It's an open door. If I need new freezers, more carts, more employees, a new festival, or it's almost like it just happens. It's because I walk in my purpose and I speak it. I believe it. This past weekend was a huge festival locally. It was called Dreamville. 40,000 people, 2 days. The weather was beautiful. Last year we did that festival. I made a whole lot of money. For whatever reason, this year the vendor committee did not select us to handle their frozen treats. I was bummed out. I'm not going to lie.
Of course. Yeah.
Super bummed out.
It's always tough, especially if you've done a good job and you know you've done a good job.
And,
Yep.
and it's not a couple of dollars. It's a
Yeah,
whole lot
yeah.
of money that I did not make this weekend. But because I know that I do a good job and my guys represent us well and I represent God, really, that although I didn't get this opportunity, I'm not worried about that because I know 2, 3, 4, 5 other ones are going to open up. It's either offset what I didn't make this weekend or make more. So if we're talking to business, your audience, if there's any business entrepreneurs out there, like just focus on your craft. Focus on your craft, provide the best service. If you're chasing the money's going to run away from you. If you're doing what you're doing for money, and that's the sole objective, you're not going to be successful or as successful. But if you're doing it to provide a service and the best service of whatever you're trying to do, the money will come chasing you.
Can you touch on, you mentioned a documentary and also just a philosophy, The Secret.
Yes.
Can you go further into that? Because, I mean, it's something that I had to do a ton of research on. And until you brought it to me, I didn't even know anything about it. If you could just speak on that.
Sure, yeah. Well, The Secret is about, is nothing new and it's nothing, it sounds mumbo jumbo when you speak about it, but it's about manifesting what you want, whether it be a relationship, money, fame, whatever it is that you want. But we have the power, the inner power, to speak and visualize what we want in life. And through work and visualization and positive affirmation, the universe responds to what you put out. And if you speak it and you visualize it and you feel it in your possession, it'll come back to you. And that's what The Secret is. And that's what I teach my guys.
How do you teach them to deal with negative stuff? Because, I believe in everything that you just said. I absolutely believe you have to have a positive outlook, believe that you are going to be successful, see the goal, see it to its rightful conclusion. But as you know, like this weekend being the perfect example, shit happens.
Yep.
I've had everything that you can imagine happen to me over the course of, I don't know, however many years I'm up to now, 18 years or whatever of entrepreneurship. I've had employee issues, I've had vendor issues, I've had business issues, I've had, you name it, it's happened to me.
Yep.
How do you deal and how do you train people to deal with the moments when it all goes wrong?
Well, it's through leadership. I mean, it's through personal example. One, I'm an open book with them, so I share my downfalls. I've shared my successes, how I overcame certain obstacles, and why staying in a positive mindset and removing negativity, whether it be a friend, a situation, or internally, how to remove that, because how that consumes you will determine what the outcome is going to be. So through personal experiences, what I've been through, I share with my guys, this is what you have to do to get through this. Or in majority of my guys, see, I'm an athlete first. I played every, baseball, basketball, football, and I held captain leadership roles or leadership positions, point guard, shortstop, center field.
Yeah.
And the guys that work for me are all either current athletes, former athletes. So I coach my team as if we're on the court. Okay? So if you're in training and I ask you to give me, 100 push-ups and you bust out 50, well, yeah, that's life. You get to 50 and okay, now it's tough. But your goal is 100. You have to push your body through. And even if you can make 100, well, you just made it to 72. And that was before you had a goal. Let's say you didn't have a goal. If you did not have a goal, you probably would have got tired at 30. But because you put 100 in your head, you got to 50, you were struggling. Well, now you got to push your body through. Now you get to 72.
Yep.
Then the following week, you get to 80. Then eventually you get to 100. Now 100 is easy for you. And that's life. You go through storms where at the time it seems like there's no positive outcome or this is it. But once you get over that hurdle, this is what I call spiritual muscles. Okay, God's not going to give you something you cannot handle. But once you start building your spiritual muscles, which goes back to the 100 push-ups. Okay, now I can do 100. Okay, well now I need you to do 120. Well, you got one. Well, I did 100 before. Now I get up to 110. All right, I'm going to build up to 120. Now I'm at 120. That's life.
Talk about one of those moments. Give me, I know that you said this is your 15th year of entrepreneurship. What's the worst, darkest moment you've had as an entrepreneur, and how'd you get out of it?
Wow. That's a really good question, because I was speaking at an elementary school last week, and a fifth grader asked me that question.
Well, me and fifth graders have a lot in common.
No, I get it, but I couldn't believe that was her thought process. She asked me that. What was your darkest time as an entrepreneur? What was the most difficult?
Yeah.
I said, wow, that's impressive. And to be honest, it was year 1 and 2. Year 1 and 2 for most people, but it wasn't the business part that was hard for me. Because the business part from the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, it's been success. Every week, every month, every year has been year after year growth. But for me personally, I went through a divorce during that time. And this was just as I was going into entrepreneurship and leaving corporate, and had 2 young boys.
Yep.
They were 5 and 7 years old. And their mom and I, we got married super young, even before the kids.
Yep.
But we were in love, and young love, but we loved each other, but we didn't know how to love each other and be successful. So it was tough, because when she and I finally split apart, I was removed from the home, from being a day-to-day father, which I love. That's my passion. That's besides life, the second greatest gift God gives us is to be a parent. And
I agree with that.
yes. So being away from home and not having the money that I did have was enough to cover their living expenses, to make sure that they were taken care of and to keep the business growing. But there was no money left over for Lou.
Oh, I get it.
So there was no money for an apartment. There was no money for gas or food. So the first year and a half, I literally slept couch to couch in my car. I lived with my young fraternity undergrad brothers for several months. And I ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner at Shaw University's cafeteria, my alma mater, because the ladies knew what I was going through, and they allowed me to eat there. And that's what allowed me to get through that difficult time. Yep. But there was a point where I'm eating, I don't know, lunch or dinner, and I look to my left and right, and I'm 30 at the time. These are 18, 19-year-old teenagers.
It's tough.
And what am I doing?
Yeah. You and I, we talked about this a little bit off camera, but we have a shockingly similar story. I left my corporate gig in September, and my ex and I were separated in November, and I had a 1 and a 3-year-old at the time.
Wow.
And it was, those are tough moments, because you really do look at yourself and you're like, is this just selfish? Like, am I choosing the thing that I want to do and failing my family? Like, have I failed my family? Is this divorce all my fault? These are all the things that went through my mind. And my lowest point, I've had a couple, but my lowest point, I think, ever was I was renting 2 rooms from a buddy of mine that I went to business school with. And, like, all of our mutual friends are all working in these big firms and doing very well for themselves. And I've got like $1,300 left in my name, and I've got $57,000 in credit card debt, all for the company. And I don't know how it's going to work. And I didn't want to quit. And luckily the kids were young enough, they didn't know any better. To them it was like, we're hanging out at Mr. Rob's house, and it was like fun. Yeah. But I told myself, like, I had to have more money in 1 month, or I was going to have to at least get another job or something, because I couldn't stay in this kind of purgatory, because it wasn't quite working. It was like kind of working, but it wasn't quite working. And I killed myself that month. I mean, just killed myself. And a series of things happened where we landed this newspaper article in the Army Times, and we were a military apparel brand, and we quadrupled, right at the end of the month. But anyway, I on that day, I opened up my account, and I was like, really didn't know what I had. I knew it wasn't great, and it was $1,357. So for the first time since I started it, I had $57 more than I did the month before. And as stupid as that sounds, it was incredibly important to believing that I could do it.
Yes.
And insanely, about 18 months later, like I had a 4,000 square foot house in Chapel Hill. I mean, I had a huge swing. I went from like, I'm totally screwed to, oh shit, this is really working.
Yeah.
But man, there were some years of challenge before that moment. I didn't have the instant profitability.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in most successful stories or businesses, they're born through hardship, through adversity. It's never the perfect time. It's always when your back's against the wall and you tap into your inner boy where you believe in Santa Claus and superheroes. And you have to, like you said, the key word is
I like that.
You have to.
Yeah.
Even now, like I feel like I can jump over the building.
Yep.
Like I believe like this is going to happen. I know this is going to happen. And in those humble beginnings, when your back's against the wall, that's when the ideas just start flowing. And you start thinking like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Wow. Same thing when you think of people who are on drugs. Think about this. To support a drug habit, and you don't have the money, but you support $1,000 a day drug addiction, your mind is thinking of new ways and creating new ways to come up with the money, whether it's legal or illegal.
Yeah, but you're solving problems.
But you're solving because you're allowing your brain to figure it out because you need that.
Yep.
So let's channel that in something positive. And if you want to be successful, you want to start a business, or you want to do something, okay, what can I do? As crazy as it sounds, but if you believe in it, and that's the key word, you got to believe in it. Believe it and then feel it in your possession. When you feel it in your possession, you believe it, it's already happened. And now you just got to put the work in. And that's what I did during my hard time, is that I believe that this is going to win, this is going to succeed because God told me to do it. And as I'm moving forward, I see things opening up. And I didn't hit the home run right away, but I got a base hit here. I got a base hit there. I got walked. I got a double. I might have struck out. Okay, but I saw that pitch. I'm coming back next at bat, and I'm going to swing harder, or I'm going to put it in left field. And that's it. And now I feel like Barry Bonds or Aaron Judge. I'm knocking the ball out the park every time.
Have you had moments of doubt?
Never.
Damn.
Never. There was never one point where I said, am I supposed to be doing something else? This is not
That's cool,
working.
man.
That's rare. I know that.
I am. That is not me. I definitely doubted a number of times.
Yeah.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. So what's next for you?
Great question. Because, like I said, I didn't get into Dreamville this weekend, which is a big festival. And I looked at my journal yesterday of what I wrote last week, because last week we're ramping up into the Dreamville weekend that I'm not going to do. And I was really upset that that company has control over my destiny, whether I was going to make money or not. So that means if I applied again for this festival, it's a 50-50 chance I'm going to get in or not. So last week I was coming up with all kinds of ideas to expand the business where I have control over it. And now my sons are old enough and they're learning the business. They're 18 and 21. They've been a part of the business all along. But over the last few months, they've been with me day to day, making ice, finding festivals, learning the business. So now all three of us and the rest of my team, but it starts with me, the head, I'm thinking of all new ways to create more income. So we started searching for a storefront. Where's going to be our first storefront? In
Awesome.
Durham, okay? And because I make the ice out of my garage for the last 15 years, but we're outgrowing the garage. So now I need a warehouse. So the store is going to serve as a warehouse and a manufacturing plant, and the front window will be a bonus. I know it will do well, but by getting more exposure.
Are you going to do the thing where like they get to watch you make it? Is it going to be that kind of structure? Or?
Probably not now, because that's a whole bigger warehouse. I don't want that.
You don't want that
retail
responsibility.
space. I mean, I don't want that money, that rent. Although I would love to own the building, but probably not. But that will be cool for the kids to see it like Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
But I want to open up my first store, and that will be one of many. And in order for me to grow the business, initially, I thought I would have to franchise it to multiply quickly. Well, being at the right place, right time, the secret, like I was talking about a few minutes ago, I was at All-Star Weekend in Charlotte a few years ago, and I'm setting up to sell ice, and I see a man walking down the street about 100 yards away, but I knew who he was as soon as I saw him. It was Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban was walking down the street by himself. I dropped what I was doing and I ran. I ran over to him. I said, Mr. Cuban, how you doing? My name's Lou Torres. You mind if we take a picture? He said, let's take a picture. We took a picture. A couple other people came by. They saw who he was, so they were taking pictures with him. And he, really nice guy, down to earth, super humble.
He is. He's a good guy.
Super great guy. And he's focused on the pictures, and he has his arms around him. He's a pretty tall guy. But at that time, I'm just shooting him my pitch. I started this company in 2009. I started with one cart. We have 14 now. We're doing festivals all over the East Coast. We're the biggest mobile Italian ice vendors, But through my business, I train and mold the minds of young men and women to think and act like entrepreneurs. When I said that, he paused, looked at me, he winked and said, "You're winning." So that told me, as I was speaking to him, although he wasn't looking at me or engaging with me, he was hearing what I was saying. So when I told him that I teach young men and women to think and act like entrepreneurs, that's when he looked over at me and winked, said, "You're winning." Then he said, "All right, guys, I got to go. Where's my hotel?" I said, "Well, where are you staying at, Mr. Cuban?" He said, "At whatever hotel." I said, "Oh, it's right around the block, but if you don't mind, I can walk you. I can show you how to get there." He said, "Let's go." So he said, "Tell me more about your business." "Well, sir, I want to franchise it." He said, "Nope, I'm going to stop you right there. Don't franchise." I said, "Let me record this." And I recorded him telling me why not to.
That's wild.
And basically, he said, if you franchise it, you're going to spend more time babysitting, these franchisees, franchisors, whatever. I'm drawing a blank right now. The people that franchise your business.
Yep.
To run your business the way you want it to be ran rather than focusing on your product. He says, so buy more carts because it doesn't cost a lot. Train people to think and act like managers. Give them an incentive to do that. And that's how you grow your business. And you'll be golden. And that's the model I've been using over the last few years.
That's really cool.
Now recently I ran into a guy that I grew up in Newburgh with, who lives here in North Carolina, who's the operations manager for Cookout. And exactly.
Nice.
And I said, "Billy," he said, "Yeah, man, I oversee over 300 stores, one owner." I said, "What, Cookout's not a franchise? All these stores all over?" He said, "Nope, it's one owner. We just open up a shop, build it, open up another one, build it, but it all funnels up to one owner, a family."
Yeah.
And they're based in Greensboro, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that was more affirmation.
In-N-Out Burger is the same way.
Really? Mm-hmm. So that was affirmation to me, like, oh, I don't have to franchise to expand. I can just build one at a time. And then, but he said, "Lou, just build the first one. Once you build the first one, the second one will be easier. And then everyone after that, it's a domino effect because you got a great product, bro. I've tasted it." Now, this is what he told me. So yesterday, I was driving our cargo van, our serving van, to an event that we found out when we got there was canceled. It was me and my son, my middle son, Carmelo. Mm-hmm. Well, as we're riding back to the house, there's a spot I've had my eye on for the last 2 years. And I reached out to the owner last year. It's been vacant for at least a year. They don't want to lease and they don't want to sell. but it's just sitting there and it's perfect. And I know I stand on that property and I can feel it in my possession. Like, this is where we're supposed to be. So I parked the van there and I'm taking a picture of the address and the logo, the sign that's run down, but I have my van underneath it. So I can visualize
what it's going to look like.
what exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I met a gentleman who's a fraternity brother of mine on Saturday at another event who happens to know a guy who's close to the guy that owns the property. So he agreed to do an introduction. But all of this happened last week when I came to the point in my business and said, I don't want that company to dictate whether I'm going to make money this weekend or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, now it's time to open up the store.
Yeah.
Okay, who's gonna run it? My son Carmelo. He's gonna run the first one. Okay, where do we want to be at in Durham? What kind of store do we want? We want drive-throughs. I want a place where people can sit. Aesthetically, what I want. It's what I visioned, and it's there. Now, the only thing that's stopping me from moving forward is getting that guy to say, "Yeah, I'll lease you the spot."
So I know you're going to say that there's no chance he won't say yes, but what happens if he doesn't?
If he doesn't, then I'm at a point where that's not where I'm supposed to be. And where I'm supposed to be is going to happen.
So you really are, you just roll with it.
I roll with it.
You just roll with it.
I roll with it.
You know?
Okay.
Do you think that everything is manifestation, though? And or do you have the next plans? If, like what Nick just said, it's a no. We're not selling you this.
So yes and no. If I want to be a successful IC dealer, we're gonna grow, whether it be through the stores or whether it be delivery or the carts. That's it. We're going to be successful, but there is times where a no is a no.
Yeah.
Because sometimes God will stop you from what you don't see. You might say, like, I want to get back with my ex-wife so we can be a great family and because I want to be with you and I love you, but God might not let that happen, even though you want it, because it's not supposed to happen. He's protecting you from whatever that would have ended up whatever kind of relationship that would have ended up like. But we'll open up another avenue for something else and say, wait a second, that's why you said no. And it's not until you receive your other blessings or something else happens where you can look back and say, that's why that didn't work out. So yeah, you can manifest pretty much anything you want, but if it's not God's plan for you, it's not going to open up.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought process because, the few times that I've been caught up emotionally in things when things didn't go my way, right? You sink for a minute, you spend time dwelling on something, but the reality is you can only control what you can control. I can't dictate what you do.
Exactly.
Like you could just say, I'm tired of this interview and throw that water in my face. And I can't, I had no way of knowing that was going to happen. I can't make you want to be here. I can't, so I can only control how I react to things.
Yeah.
And, this company, Diesel Jack Media, the company that I now run, would have never happened if I hadn't let go emotionally from my previous company. Like that was a hard process. Mm-hmm. But once I kind of came to the realization, because I exited to, a great business in Columbus, but still owned kind of like a minority share in it, as an investor. And there were a couple things where it was like, well, this isn't how I'd run it. And like I had to actually accept it's not mine anymore.
Yeah.
And when I did that, like my life literally changed overnight. I'm not even joking. I mean, literally overnight, it was like the stress went away.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about their decisions because they were their decisions, not my decisions. And then I got to say, what do I want to do now? And this company came from that, and I've been really happy ever since.
Yep.
So it's interesting how you approach that. I think it's a very stoic mentality to go into, kind of accept things as they are and continue.
Yep.
what advice would you give to a young person or an old person, actually?
Yep.
Because there are a lot of entrepreneurs that don't start until they're 40 or 50. You're starting a business. What are the 3 things like you have to do in your mind to be successful in business?
Well, the main thing, I say, if you're doing it for the money, it's not going to work.
I agree. Yep.
Okay. And I see it all the time where we're at a festival and people see my long lines and they get inspired and say, oh, I can get an icy cart. I just need a cart and some umbrellas, and I can do the same thing. Well, it's the same thing like watching Michael Jordan dominate a basketball game, and you say, oh, let me put on some Jordans and a Bulls 23 jersey and shave my head, and I'm going to have the same result. That's not it. What you have to do is you have to figure out what you're good at, okay? And what you're good at. How can you provide a service with what you're good at? So if you're good, if you're a good handyman, you're good with your hands and you can build things, okay? Well, I'm not. So I will have to pay somebody to do a service that I need to do what I need to be done. So figure out what it is that you're good at and how do you provide a service for it. But you have to be passionate about what you're doing, because you can be really good with your hands, like my dad is, but he wouldn't do that to make money for to start a business, because he's passionate about doing it for himself.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I want to build my own things, Lou. I don't want to build it for other people.
My dad's the same way.
Yeah.
He can build a house or a car from the ground up.
Yep.
But he's always like, every time we've asked him, hey, why don't you build furniture for people, or why don't you build custom cabinetry or whatever. He's like, then it's a job.
Yeah, exactly. So find out, what you're passionate about and how you can provide a service doing that. Secondly, is the mindset. You have to think like a winner. You have to think and believe like you can achieve anything. You have to have a millionaire's mindset. Okay, well, it's not like, oh, I'll do this later. It's like, no, it has to get done now. You got to see the fire before the flames come out. You got to see the smoke coming out of the trash and put it out or figure it out.
Hey guys, Diesel Jack Media has just opened up our new studio. And while we're getting things spun up, I've tasked the team with making as many videos as possible. To kick that off, we are launching a limited time $500 video option. Here's the way it works. You go to dieseljackmedia.com under video production, choose the $500 video, purchase it for $500. You get to choose one of 3 things. How weird do you want the video? Do you want it normal? Do you want it a little funky? Or do you want it weird as Once you choose that, you reach out to us at hello@dieseljackmedia.com. We'll write you if you don't write us, and we'll ask you to send us your product or tell us about your service. Then we execute. You don't get any say in the matter. We turn it around in 1 week. It's going to be a high quality video that you can absolutely use in an advertisement, depending on how weird you wanted it. And that's it. And so far, it's been a phenomenal product. We've made a lot of small businesses happy. If you're a small business and you need a video on the cheap featuring your product, featuring your service, or just as a joke to one of your friends or something like that, the $500 video at dieseljackmedia.com is the way to go. Well, through the magic of editing, you guys have probably noticed that these glasses have magically appeared. In a little while, Kelsey's going to let us have some Cocoa Chrissy ices.
But after you mentioned a third thing.
There was a third thing, that came to mind. I mean, if you want to have a successful business, what are you doing it for? How does it help others? Mm-hmm. If you come from a server mentality, or how you can empower, or how does this benefit somebody else rather than just benefits you? Mm-hmm. If you could figure out how you can implement your business to do that, that will definitely bless your business in return.
I think that's an important thing. I think it's overlooked. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Hollywood energy, kind of bitter energy, talking about how like it's all about you. It's all about, money never sleeps, all that kind of BS. And like, I really don't think any of that is that valuable. Oh. I always think that the things that are most valuable to me are when I have helped other people, and in whatever capacity, those are the things that are memorable. They feel good. Like there's you watch other people succeed, like that's incredibly meaningful. And if you structure your business thinking like that, I think it's a multiplier for success, where a lot of people, I think, look at it as a hindrance.
Yep.
You know, like, oh, you should keep it and you should do this and you should do that. But I think, like, if you're coming at it with the mindset of, I'm going to help other people through my business. Like, yes, I want to be profitable, I want to make money, but I want to do more good and generate more wealth for others than I take in is something that's very important to me.
Awesome. That's it. That's it. That's
we
the secret,
just
bro.
nailed it. We just nailed it.
That's it.
Secret of business.
That is.
What's the biggest business mistake you've ever made?
Oh, wow. Keeping certain employees on, keeping them, longer than I should have.
Yep.
Yeah.
Too many chances.
Too many chances.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's probably, one of the biggest. You just can't help everybody.
You can't help everybody.
No.
And there's different situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
The easiest ones are like, they're just bad.
Yeah.
They're just bad at everything. They're not nice people. They're like, those are like, all right, fine. It doesn't work out. But, I've had every situation you can, because the apparel company, I had a lot of employees. So with Diesel Jack Media, there's 15, 16, 17 of us at any given time. It's close. You can have very personal conversations and like, hey, work on this, work on that. It's not like but when you have a lot of people and you're not really touching base every day with it, things can get out of hand. I've had theft. I've had, fraud. I've had people open accounts in my name. I mean, like, you name it, like, It has happened to me, and it is wild how people will somehow blame you for the things that they do. I don't know if you've had that one, but it's like,
Oh, yeah.
it's wild.
It is.
Like, it's interesting when you grow up in an environment where it's like, take responsibility for your actions, do good work, don't leave any job undone, see everything to its rightful conclusion, and then you encounter people that don't have that mindset. It's almost hard to. So how do you do it? How do you identify quickly now that if you've got the right people?
The way I do it now, because I wanted everybody to win.
Yep.
And I had visions for them that they couldn't see for themselves.
Yes.
And that's when I learned the hard way at an entrepreneur conference that I was at last year. Sometimes you got to let go of the people that you really want to win, see them win because you have a vision for them, but they don't see it for themselves. And you spend more time babysitting them and turning out their fires or taking a loss because you're trying to help them succeed. So you have to identify when to let go.
I don't know when I started saying this, and I certainly didn't invent it, but I now, like, when I'm talking to people and I'm mentoring someone or whatever, I can't want it more than you want it. Mm-hmm. If I want it more than you want it, it's never going to happen. Because if I want it more than you want it, I'm just going to do it myself.
Yep.
You have to want whatever it is you're after.
Yep.
Or it's never going to work.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've actually had meetings with my guys recently, and we're going to have them actually moving forward within the next week or two. What are your aspirations? What is your goal? What do you need from me? How can I help you achieve?
That's great.
What it is that you're trying to achieve? Because if I can help you, then you're going to help me. Mm-hmm. And it's a working relationship. But if I need you to do something and you're doing it just to do it, you're not going to give me 100%. So I want to know what it is that you want. Where do you see yourself in this company? Because we're growing here, and I want everybody to prosper.
How do you make yourself better? I wrestle with this a lot because you can't sit on what you've already done.
Yeah.
You can't accept that you're good at everything.
Yeah.
How do you self-assess and make yourself better?
That's something I struggled with, and this year I'm taking a more active approach on how I relay my messages to the guys or how I speak to them or my demeanor. Because if a few of them didn't get it and they're not doing what I need them to do, well, it might not be them. It might be the way I'm articulating what I'm trying to get done. So I try to sit back and analyze myself see what I'm doing, see if that works or not. But at the same time, I'm asking them, hey, how did you receive this? What could I be doing better? How can I help you? How could I say this differently? Because I had one employee that told me, he's like, man, you kind of come at me hard. And my son actually pointed that out. And it's nothing personal against the guy. And I can see how it can come off that way. But I'm from the old school coaching era where the coaches, in your face, but it's only to dig it out of you, to get back on the court and dig it out. Well, what I'm learning now is that's not the way he receives communication.
Yep.
And so I have to learn a different approach, and everybody cannot be managed the same way. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Schwarzkopf, I'm going to bastardize the actual quote, but he used to say, I was a good leader when I treated, everyone in my platoon equally. I was a great leader when I realized that equal wasn't necessarily the same. And that everybody some people need a kick in the ass. Mm-hmm. Some people need kind words. Some people need, laying it all out on a piece of paper. Everybody needs something a little different, and identifying what that is. It's always a challenge because you don't always know. And the other thing is the generation is very different. Yeah. This generation, there's a lot of benefits to this generation, but this generation doesn't do extremely well with criticism. Mm-hmm. They've been given positive messages their whole life. So even if you bring up something that's minorly negative, like to you or I, if I was like, hey man, hey, this thing, it'd be great if you could fix this thing. You'd be like, Roger, got it. I got to fix this thing. I'm going to think about what's that?
It would be detrimental. To me, it would be like...
Well, no, to us, you're talking about to us, I will receive it. Okay, I see what you mean. Mm-hmm. I'm on it.
Yeah. Or, you know what? Here's why I do this. Are you sure you want me to change it? But it wouldn't be the end of your day. Yeah. You'd think about it for a little while. It would definitely be in the back of your head. You'd make sure that you would be good the next time, but you wouldn't take it like me saying you're a bad person. Mm-hmm. If I talk to somebody that is under 30, maybe even 35 now, and give them anything negative, if they haven't worked for me for a while, it is like I just shot their dog in front of them.
Yes, it is. And that's why I said detrimental. Because, I hear that, and Nick, I think you said that to me once before too. It's like, this is not the end of the world, but you said to me, I think you're used to doing things and doing things well. And I'm sort of used to hearing, criticism, but I don't, internally, I can't manage it. I go crazy when I hear it. And I think I'm doing a poor job.
But it is really important to be able to take criticism. You have to know, one of the biggest lies that I told myself, and it caused me millions of dollars of problems, is that I was good at things I was not good at. So an example, with Ranger Up, right? I am an excellent marketer. You're not going to hear me say that about very many things. I can market. I can tell a story. I can sell. I am good at these things. I am fair at inventory management, at best. But I was the best person in my company at it at the time. So I allowed myself to kind of tell myself the lie that I was good at inventory management because I was better than everyone else. But then when you meet somebody that's actually good at inventory management, you realize how embarrassingly bad you were. Yeah. It would be like, I like to put things in wrestling terms. The show Neutral Position is based on, wrestling. Right? If I wrestle in middle school and never wrestle again, but you've never wrestled and we wrestle, I'm going to feel good about myself probably. I'll probably beat you. I mean, you're an athlete, but if you've never done it, I'll probably come out on top. Does that make me a good wrestler? No, I wrestled for a couple years in middle school. If I go up against an NCAA champion, I will get murdered. But in my small pond, where no one else has wrestled, man, do I look good. Oh, Nick's good at wrestling. Then you throw me into a pool with kids that were good in high school or were good in college. Like, all of a sudden you realize you're not good. And so criticism from people who care about you, right? It's different. This is different from criticism on the internet. Like somebody saying, you're ugly, you're stupid. You're like, that is not, you don't have to listen to those people. But somebody that cares about you and is telling you, hey, you're a good person and you're good at this thing, but you need to fix this thing to get to the next level. If you take that as an attack, you will not ever go forward. You have to embrace it, assess it, and see what you can do with it. But you can't just it's not a hit. I don't do hits. If somebody is not good and I don't want them, I just fire them. Straight up. Mm-hmm. Because it's not even about whether they're good people or they might be great, but they might not be great for me or my organization.
Yep.
I didn't mean to run away with that, but
it's a good transition. But I would also like to hear, have you ever tried to provide some of that constructive criticism to someone or to one of your guys that you mentor, and it's not taken so lightly, and they do take it, how you said, they just take it very personally? Why are you laughing, guys?
I feel like there might be some personal thing, floating around under the radar here.
But how has it turned out for them?
I mean, most recently with my son, now that my sons are old enough to travel with me and do the festivals, my middle boy, Carmelo, we were at a show in Orlando, and the way he was serving, I came up to the side of him and told him, well, no, this is how I want you to do it. But it was in front of customers, and he kind of got offensive about it, or defensive about it. And he then relayed to me that the reason why he was doing it this way was to do it that way for the result that he wanted. But I said to myself, wow, that's brilliant. But here I am trying to tell him how to do it my way. He came up with his own way. And that's one of many different scenarios where I came at my employee in a way that I'm trying to show them how to do it my way, but they had their own way of doing things. Sure. But it was the way that I approached them that they didn't receive it. Or there's times where I do explain something to them and they're defensive about it, and they shut down. Yep. Yeah. And now I'm like, okay, well, now there's no, how do I communicate with you now?
That's the one that I see more and more.
Yeah.
And again, it's the younger the person, the more I see that.
I had my nephew who's been with me the longest, 11, 12 years. And I had a mandatory staff meeting several months back, and he didn't have a car. So he calls me last minute, like an hour before the meeting was supposed to start. Hey, can you scoop me up? I said, you're waiting to the last minute to ask for a ride? That's irresponsible on your part. You knew all along you didn't have a ride. I could have made arrangements for you. And I kind of verbalized a little bit, a little profanity in there. And so, but I figured out a way to find another employee to pick him up on the way here.
Yeah, you solved the problem.
I solved the problem, but because he shut down by the way I attacked him, he still didn't come. And he missed out on a very important meeting, and I took that personally. So, it was the night that I made the whole staff watch The Secret, and it was important to me because I wanted them to be on the same page going into this season. Well, he chose not to come, and it bothered me because I really have a vision for him and a position in this company. And months went by where we didn't speak, and then the season starts back up, and he sees, we're out of town and we're making money, and he's asking the other guys, well, how much you guys made this this weekend? And they're telling him, and now he wants to talk to me. Now he calls and he's texting. And that's when I had to make a decision. Okay, do I keep it personal, or do I, try to work with him? And I said, okay, when I come back on Monday, I want to meet with you, but I'm not going to reach out to you. So I'll be available on Tuesday. Well, he took the initiative to call Tuesday and say, hey, what time are you available? I really want to talk to you. Okay. And he came to the house, and we had a man-to-man discussion. And he apologized. He says, man, I know what I did was wrong. I've been with you the longest. I see the vision of the company. I want to be a part of it. Now, the old me would have fired him and just walk away. And and a mentor of mine a couple of years ago said, yeah, there's certain people you can't help and you got to let them go. Mm-hmm. But then there's some, you got to also keep in mind that these young men that God puts in under your wing are between the ages of 18 and 22. So their minds are not fully functional as adults. Yeah. So they'll make rash decisions. But if you quit on them and stop them and not show them the right way, you're just setting them up for failure, because they're going to keep with that pattern. Mm-hmm. So use that as a teaching tool. And that's the approach that I have with him now. This is what I want for you. This is where I see you, but this is what I need from you. What do you need from me? And ever since then, we've been doing very well together.
That's great.
So, but that's the new approach that I'm working on this year.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out. No, I really believe so.
You still need people that want to meet you part of the way. Mm-hmm. That's always the challenge. Is you never know what's inside somebody. I've been surprised a number of times. Like you think you're in a good situation with somebody, you think you're on the same wavelength, then you realize you're not, But for the most part, I wake up every day assuming that, like me, people wake up in the morning and say, I want to do a good job today. There are very few people I've met in my life that don't want to do a good job. Now, their standard might be different. What they think is good and what I think is good may be two very different things. But I assume that most people are trying to do the right thing, and they just need guidance, or they need help, or they need structure. Yep. And that's generally been the case. But sometimes it's just like there's just nothing you can do to make people fit into your organization. Yep. What's next? What is if you look at 5 years in the future, right now you're running the East Coast. Yep. Where are we in 5 years?
Still on the East Coast, because there's still a lot to do here, but starting with the first store and opening up a second one, all in the triangle, and then eventually just spreading out. We wouldn't go into New York or New Jersey. They already have franchises up there, but there's so many untapped markets in the South, or Virginia, or out west, Memphis.
Have just randomly, because I can't, my brain starts working on this. Have you thought about tapping into military bases? Have you thought about tapping into like jiu-jitsu tournaments? I'm just thinking about things that you might not be thinking about that have like pretty big numbers of people that would be interested in the product.
Last year was my first year doing military bases.
Oh, cool.
We did Fort Gordon's 4th of July. We did Fort Bragg's 4th of July, and they were successful. So we'll continue to do those events this year and maybe tap into other bases. But really, there's no demographic. There's always an event going on.
Delicious ice.
Yeah, there's always an event going on. There's something outdoors, and the sky's the limit. So, I really don't have a concrete plan. Okay, this is what I want to do, but definitely want to continue to grow the festivals, maintain the festivals that we're doing, add more festivals to the list, but also corporate catering is a big one that I'm working on now, and that's where I got the serving vans for, because we're here in the Triangle. There's nothing but big, small, medium size, Fortune 100, Fortune 500, mom and pops companies that we can serve by providing an icy social that will promote company morale or employee interaction, and we're cost effective, whether you're a small mom and pop's budget or,
the other thing is you've got Duke, UNC, NC State, and
I'm
all
tapped into them.
Of course you are.
I'm tapped into.
I figured you would be, but they all, they have so many socials.
Exactly.
All the time.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So the sky's really the limit, but I know that the corporate catering, and that will really blossom once we have our first store, because now the community, the people that know us, know where to find us.
Mm-hmm.
They know, my social media, they can go to my website, place an order. But there's a whole bunch of other people in the community that never heard about Coco Christie because the majority of the time we're out on the road. So unless you're at a festival, you won't know who we are.
Yep.
But once you taste, like, oh my gosh, this is delicious.
Yeah.
So I know once I open up that store in Durham and in Raleigh, and then we'll have the trucks outside and with our logos, people will come in and word of mouth will spread fast because the product is good. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I stand by my product.
So do we get the taste?
Oh, you're gonna taste it in a second. I wouldn't come here without letting you taste the goods, because it is that good. Like I will post up right next to anybody. I believe in my product.
Let's do it.
All right, cool.
Let's do it.
But yeah, corporate catering.
But none for Kelsey.
None for Kelsey.
I have my own.
But yeah, corporate catering is where I really see the business just thriving.
Hollywood, you getting in on this? Let's take the man behind the camera.
So these are containers that we so the containers, this started, like I said, during the pandemic. Remember when I said when your back's against the wall and you got to figure things out, that's when your ideas, creative juices start flowing. Excuse me.
There you go, buddy.
I'm sorry, I didn't serve you first. I'm sorry.
She doesn't deserve it. She
Keep
doesn't.
things equal.
But no, check this story out. Here's a true story.
We did it in age order.
Check this story out. So prior to 2020, 100% of my revenue was festival based. So we make all our money at festivals.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks, COVID.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I have my own theory on COVID, but thanks the government.
All right. We doing this?
Yeah.
Oh, was I supposed to wait?
No, Kelsey, it's all right.
No, Kelsey, it's your world. We just get to live in it.
Go ahead. So this is strawberry.
Oh,
See?
That's very good.
This is homemade. It's not overly sweet. It's not syrupy.
very good.
It's refreshing. So all my flavors are true to the flavor. Strawberry tastes like strawberry. Mango tastes like mango. Coconut tastes like coconut.
Is there actual strawberry in here?
Yeah. So, but let's talk about
tastes
this right
like it.
here. Let's talk about these containers. So again, prior to COVID, 100% of my income was festival based. Going into March of 2020 was the first time in business where my first quarter was ramped up like it was July. I had so many festivals in Florida, big ones. And I'm just forecasting all the money I'm going to make at these shows. And we're in Daytona for Bike Week. And it was Friday, 90 degrees, made a lot of money. But Saturday's the main day. Well, Friday night, the police came by to every vendor and said, the governor's shutting the Bike Fest down. You cannot set up tomorrow. And that's when I knew COVID was real. Because prior to that, you see it on the news. So, but this was March of 2020. Now, earlier I said everything's a mindset, right? Your perspective in life, what you want out of life is, well, as I'm driving home, I'm thinking about, this is real. Like this COVID thing is real.
Yep.
And if they shut down Bike Week, that means they're going to shut down every other festival that I have lined up.
And I've got all this inventory.
Right? Exactly. And also, I'm 100% based on festival. My revenue is 100% based on what I make at these festivals. So if there's no festivals to vend at,
There's no revenue.
There's no money coming in. So I get home and I pray. I said, okay, Lord, this is real. I can't worry about what I was going to make or what I'm going to miss out on.
Yep.
But I trust you that I'm going to be okay because I'm a good son and you're my father and we're going to make this, we're going to get through it. So a week later goes by, and I come up with a dollar amount, what I need to make in order to get through this summer. If everything is going to be shut down, well, this is how much I need to make. And this is the conversation I had with God. I said, I don't know how I'm going to make this without a festival, but I trust you, and things are going to work out. So it's positive affirmations, just speaking positivity, positive mindset. That following week, I get an idea because people for years, they want my ice. Lou, I want your ice, man. Make me a bucket. I said, for what? Like, I have no time to deliver. Yeah. I can't do that. You know, it's time consuming. I'm focused on my festivals, and there's no money in that anyway. Well, I came up with the idea to start a mobile delivery service during COVID. So I took these 32-ounce containers and started, because I make my own ice, poured them into here, you know, put a seal on it, put it in the freezer, and I started marketing on Instagram and Facebook for mobile delivery service during COVID. And it was 3 of these for $35 with a $5 delivery fee. 2 for $25, 1 for $15. You can buy as many as you want, but 3 for $35 was the minimum order. And at that time, I was marketing on Facebook and Instagram. Everybody's home. Everybody's on social media. I had a captive audience. And at that time, it was during, you know, the movements and people supporting Black-owned businesses or just supporting small businesses that were struggling during the pandemic. So I had people place orders. I go deliver to them. And I say, hey, do me a favor. Take a picture of the containers. You want more? Let's go.
I'll have more after, but I want to be able to talk
now.
Yeah, take it.
Since I'm doing all the work.
Take
back
it.
Here.
So that's really good. And it's really good with some vodka. Oh yeah. It is actually really good as a daiquiri.
It would be good.
That's another business idea we're gonna do down the future. I'm gonna do a daiquiri and a hookah bar with the ice.
What about those mobile those bikes that go through?
Yes, all of that, bro. But back to the containers. I told the customer, and this is during the pandemic, take a picture of your ice, post it on your social media story or post, and tag me. Even if you don't buy, at least just do that for me. And what that did was that I was marketing. They were marketing me to their audience.
Yeah.
And it spread like wildfire. During the whole 2020 pandemic, I put my head down and was just delivering, making the containers, sealing them, taking the orders, delivering them. Then people were in Maryland that said, hey, I want some. Well, okay,
how do I do that?
How do I do that? Well, I tell you what, put it in your community, on your social media. If we get enough people, I'll drive up there in my truck. I put freezers on there, a bunch of containers. I made maybe 4 trips to DC, a couple of trips to Charlotte, to New York, and the mobile delivery service took off. Now, the number that I threw out there to God that said, this is how much I needed, was 6 figures, right? No marketing plan, no, nothing. Just social media and through word of mouth and perseverance and a positive mindset. Mm-hmm. Okay. By the end of the season, when I looked at my numbers, not only did I hit that number, but I went over $50,000. This was just with no marketing plan, but in the beginning, it started with the mindset. This is what I need, and I trust you, and everything's going to be okay.
Yep.
Even without a festival. So now we started the delivery service. Well, now people in California or Nevada, Texas, hey, Lou, I want your ice. Well, what did I do? I figured out a way how to do it. So now I packaged them. I got 3 deliveries that have to go out today. And through UPS, I packaged it with dry ice, and now I can ship all over the country as if I took it out of my freezer and hand delivered it to you next door. And all that came through. My back was against the wall, and I had to figure things out.
You're always at your best when you're absolutely screwed. I'm a big believer in that. When you have no way out, you figure it out. You know, what's the?
You want some more?
If I had an empty one, I would have slid an empty one.
You know, the burn the ships mentality.
Yep.
You know, the only way is through.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sink or swim, fight or flight. You know,
Yeah.
I just refuse to lose. That comes from my sports background.
Yep.
You know, it just carries on into business. Like, no, we have to win.
Yeah.
How do we win? As an athlete, If I want to win and the game's close and it's the fourth quarter, but I'm tired, well, dig it out. You got to dig inside of you and dig it out when there's no more time on the clock, then the game's over. Same thing at a festival. That's why I hire athletes. Guys, there is no timeouts. There is no, let's take a break. No, once the festival starts, I want both ends of the court played. Offense and defense. We're going to full court press, and we're going to run a fast break. We can't just lollygag because you start talking to girls.
As a wrestler, I'm assuming we're talking about basketball terms.
Yes. Basketball. You're right. But yeah, while the festival is going on, that's the game clock is going.
You go hard. Yep.
Right? So we want to score as many baskets as we can. If you take a break or, okay, I want to relax or I need a lunch break, well, it's illegal. You can't force us. Well, no, you're not an hourly worker. We're entrepreneurs here. And I don't pay you to sit down. So, no, yes, I need you to dig it out.
You guys are so much alike, I can hardly stand it.
Seriously. Yeah, I need you to dig it out, okay? When the festival is over, there's no more time in the game. We can't score a bucket. So whatever we do after the fact.
Kelsey, no more lunch breaks.
No, only Dan gets that. And I wish Dan was here.
Yep.
Oh yeah, so Dan Mercer was a Division I basketball player.
Okay. What school?
UCW.
Okay.
He played overseas.
He played in China. He played in Australia, and he at some point just decided his real passion was film and jumped into that. So, but this is like the one time we're talking about basketball. Usually we're talking about things. Right. He'd be so excited right now.
But that's how I run my team. Give me 100% on both ends of the court. For example, we went to St. Pete, Florida a few weeks ago for a major festival. One of the biggest ones I've vended at, where it was about 20,000 people, 4 days straight, and we could not sell a thing. And we tried everything. We was pushing the carts all over the fields, trying to get better position, sampling the product, trying to get people to come to the carts. Nothing. We barely made enough to cover all the expenses. And my son said, Dad, like this is frustrating. I said, why? It's because we're doing all this work and we're not making any money. I said, I get it, but as the coach and the GM of this team, all I want you guys to do is to go hard on both ends. You're giving me everything you have. If they don't buy, that's not on you. But if we're here and they're not buying and you're not at your cart or you're not being aggressive and trying to sample, now I have a problem with that.
Then it's on you. That's right.
But if you gave me everything you had during the festival and we don't make money, you don't worry about that. I got you.
Yeah,
I just want you to give me your effort.
Because what else can you do?
Exactly.
Yeah, control what you can control.
Exactly.
That's right. That's great.
Yep.
Worst flavor made.
Yeah, what is the worst flavor you've ever made?
None.
Come on.
I'm
Mr. Positivity. Give me some negativity.
I'm dead ass. I get it.
Yeah. I'm like, well, hey, what was the worst time you've ever had? When I was winning just too much that it made me tired.
No, I'm dead ass. Like, there is no bad flavor. There is none.
There's no bad flavor.
There is none.
I feel like I feel like I could make a bad flavor.
No.
If
well,
I put my mind
so
to it.
each flavor is.
I'm manifesting that I can do
wow.
it.
You can, man. But no, honestly, there is none. There is none. They're all true to the flavor, and whether you don't like lemon, then you don't get a lemon.
Yeah.
But lemon tastes like a frozen lemonade.
All right.
Mangoes taste like a frozen mango.
This was really good.
Thank you.
This was really good.
There's a lot of people that sell Italian ice.
Yeah.
But they buy that crap from Restaurant Depot. I make my own. Okay. You can call pizza. Pizza. I'm from New York. If you got a pizza shop, you got Domino's, you got Pizza Hut, Papa John's. Sure. That's all pizza, right?
Yeah.
But it's not New York.
I mean, is it pizza?
Exactly. Exactly. It says it's pizza. It looks like a pizza.
Yeah.
But for somebody who really knows what good pizza is, shit is trash.
Yeah, it's trash. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's mine. Italian ice. You got other people that have Italian ice umbrellas, and they have their little carts. It's not mine. It's not Coco Chrissy.
I got you, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed the conversation. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked you that I haven't asked you so far?
What's our target audience? Who are we talking to?
Yeah, that's a great question. The audience is all over the place. Like,
No, is it men, women?
so it is the biggest demographic we have
Yep.
is men age 35 to 55. The
Okay.
second biggest demographic is men 25 to 35, and then women 35 to 55. So kind of that 25 to 55 range. But we also have 15% 18 to 25, and we even have like 8-9% that are 65 and older.
Yeah.
So we're all over the place.
That's cool, but the majority is men, my age, 35 plus, you said.
I'd say most people are men 25 to 55.
That's okay. Well, let's talk about parenting. Let's talk about, being a
All
parent.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Parenting, super easy, right?
Heck no, man. Heck no. It is.
It is.
But,
It is, but it isn't. Yeah.
It is, but it isn't.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, especially when I have boys.
Yep.
I have 3 boys, and they were on cruise control up until teenage years, but then, that mid-teens where they, growing a little hair on their armpit and a little facial hair. Now they start to smell themselves and may want to challenge you.
Yep.
And that was a difficult time. My sons were never disrespectful, but they're, teenagers like us.
Yeah.
I had to think back, man, when I was his age, I kind of acted the same way towards my dad.
Yeah.
Where you think you know everything, or you want to challenge, the authority. But now that they're 18 and 21 and we got over that hurdle.
Yep.
And but you have to be consistent in being a good parent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a fine line between parenting and being a friend. Like, you want them to trust you and come to you and confide in you, but you're also we're not buddy. You're not like my best friend.
Yep.
Like, I gotta still be your daddy.
Yeah. I always look at it like my job is to make contributing members of society that are not assholes, that can take care of themselves, and that have empathy. That's the way I think about it. Like, you need to be able, like, I don't care if you want to go out and be a millionaire or you want to work a 9 to 5, but you've got to be able to take care of yourself. I want you to be kind to others, to contribute meaningfully.
Yep.
Like, that's the way I look at the end result. And so sometimes that means that you can be buddy.
Yep.
And sometimes that means that you have to be the one that's saying, nah, this is unacceptable behavior.
Exactly.
Or you can't go with these people because I don't trust these people and I'm not putting you in that predicament, even though you think they're great. Like, you have to make the decisions based on the wisdom that you have from making bad decisions or from observing bad decisions to keep them out of those situations.
Yep.
And it is hard sometimes, especially I have had, my kids have all been fairly easy, so far. They've been pretty, of course kids are all going to have flare-ups, but they've been pretty good. The girls push me a lot more than the guys. Like, when they were younger, I thought, all right, they're going to hit teenage years and it's going to be like, kind of that friction with the boys. And I've had that a little, but not much. The girls have many layers to their deceit and planning.
Oh, wow. That's one way to put it.
No, and I'm being overly aggressive, but they stay with it longer, you know, and deceit's not the right word, but like they, when they decide what it's going to be, it's much more challenging to get them off that.
Oh, wow.
It's much more challenging.
Wow.
And they have more patience.
Okay.
Whereas the boys would just be like, I'm mad at you. Like, that's not the way the girls do it. So,
wow.
but yeah, it's still like, it's all, I've been blessed.
Yeah. I think, if you have that relationship with them and you're consistent and you're loving, once they figure out life, because they still have a difficult time communicating how they feel.
Sure.
Or
it's
what
a
it
tough
is.
time.
It is.
It's a tough time.
And, but now that we're over that hurdle, and it was nothing major, but there was times where, my son, I'm not talking to you. Come on, man. What's that about? But I was still consistent in loving him and supporting him.
Mm-hmm.
And now, there was a point last year where he acknowledged that. He said, man, I was an asshole, man. I'm sorry, Dad. And that's all we want as parents is, for our kids to succeed in life, acknowledge, what they did. And you just want them to be productive and positive people in the community.
We recently had a guest on that does, he does private schools, and he also has a program for young men and dads. And his name's Matthew Boudreau. And one of the things that he said on the show that I thought was really interesting, and I think is absolutely true, is, when you are a parent, you have this job. You have to, make sure that the kids are learning these things that they need to learn to be successful in life. But really, at the end of the day, like if you go out and you're a millionaire and you have acclaim and fame and all these things, but your kids don't want anything to do with you and they're not excited to see you when they're 30, when they're 35, they don't want to spend time with you, then you failed as a man.
Yes. And
I believe that.
A few years, like I said, when I was going through that little rough patch with them, and it wasn't, fighting or anything. It was just isolation.
Yeah.
Just he didn't want to talk to me. He was living with his mom, but I was growing the business, and I was so focused on growing the business, and I was acquiring new carts and vans, and I'm being congratulated by so many people. Mm-hmm. Oh wow! They'll see me in the street or on social media, comment.
Yeah, you're doing it. Congratulations! Yeah.
But then, like, I look at myself in the mirror and it's like, that's great, but the people that I love the most, I can't share this with them.
Yep.
So when I started to just focus more on my family and the people that I love the most, and I don't care about what you think of me or I'm posting this so I can get a certain amount of likes. That's not what that's not life. Life is where you can enjoy life with the people that you love. And I'm doing that now because now my sons, they work with me side by side. They're helping me grow the business. They're very active. And now I'm enjoying life. Yep. I'm really enjoying life in this process.
But that's a healthy way to think about it. I've been a social media guy since pretty much the beginning. My first company had a MySpace account.
Oh, wow.
To put it in perspective.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or as we called it, our Mi Espacio account. But I've been like in social media, I've been cool, then not cool, cool, then not cool, like a few times, right? Like my star has kind of risen, fallen, and none of it really matters.
Yep.
Like really none of it matters. Like, when things are going well, everyone loves you. When things are going poorly, you're forgotten. But the core group of people, whether it's your family or friends that are really your friends that are there consistently throughout the whole thing, like Hollywood Herd back here, those are the people that deserve your attention. And everything else, you just have to let it go. Yep. Have you ever been told, hey, you look like an IPA man? Well, I have a lot. The thing about being an IPA man is finding the best tasting craft beer because, to be frank, there's a lot of horrible ones. Ones that taste like dog urine, janitor mop bucket residue, or public pool water. But if you can sit through the stinkers, you'll find the gems. The ones that make being an IPA drinker all worth it. The ones that taste like sunshine, rainbows, and happiness. And my friends, I found a gem. Tough Dog Brewing is the single greatest beer drinking experience I've had in my time on this planet, drinking IPAs. With 6 beautifully crafted beer flavors, this veteran-owned and operated business is exactly what the craft beer community needed. Get yours today at toughdogbrewing.com. That's TUFF dogbrewing.com. With that,
I think it's time.
Now the moment we've been waiting for, Louis.
Oh, wow.
Let me not lose this.
why do we have tape on the hat today?
Oh, you know what? This is my handwriting too.
What does it say?
What's it say on it?
It says neutral position hat.
Hey,
For movers.
hey, thanks. Look, we've got this here. You can see it says neutral position hat. So now we know it's the neutral position. We're going to turn that around
That was more
so we
for,
don't see it
movie.
through the magic of editing. All right, we'll open this this hat up and
Let him pick.
you want it? He gets to pick
Yeah,
them.
let him pick.
Does he read them or do I read
Oh,
them?
he reads them.
It's no.
No, he picks, you read them.
I feel like this is a lot of work.
Has this happened before?
No.
I thought-
Here, we're gonna put the hat aside. Yeah, you really
What are we
stay out of
doing?
this. Stay out of
What
this.
kind of initiation?
This is
is
the
going on?
rapid fire round. The first question that I always ask everybody, and then I don't know what's in here, but the one I always ask everybody: hand-to-hand combat. What's the toughest animal you can defeat?
That I can defeat? Toughest animal?
Yeah.
Holy crap! Like we're like
Like
realistically,
yeah,
or
yeah, realistically, you're fighting to the death.
Well, I don't know how realistic it is, Louis. Somebody said a lion.
We have a guy.
Yeah, there's no
we have
way.
a guy that thinks he could take a lion, but you know.
dude, if an angry squirrel charges me, man, I'm taking off. So I don't.
What do you think?
Could you take a New York rat?
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
No, life and death. You're locked in a room. You
Yeah.
can't flee. You have to. One of you has to come out alive. What's the toughest animal you can take?
The toughest animal I can take. My ex-wife. No, I'm just. She's a gem. She is a gem. I don't even know why I said that. She is a gem. No, wow. I don't know.
When was the point that your life turned?
Life was
on the show.
Life was going great for Louis.
Yeah, no.
You see,
It
like
was, right?
you see, like him getting hit, and
For
it's
real.
like, I bet you're wondering how I got here.
Yeah, no. She's a gem. I don't even know why I said that.
All right, let's.
Um,
we'll pick a different one.
The one I just gave you.
A rat, a New York City
A rat.
rat.
Okay,
There we
he's
go.
like,
Yes.
I want out of this
I'm gonna
question.
Kick, yes, I'm
I
gonna
want
kick.
out of this question. All
There we
right,
go.
here we go. Here we go.
Yes.
Rapid fire round. No
All right.
deep thought.
Let's go.
Here
All
we
right,
go.
I'm
Here we go.
Let's do it. This sounds fun.
What would your younger self think of who you are today?
Oh wow, super proud.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not a New York Yankee because I thought I was gonna be a Yankee, but I think proud of who I am.
it's all right. Not everybody can be a Red Sox. You know?
Oh, there it is.
Hey, I've been good the whole time. I've been good. What's the worst icy flavor you've ever had or ever made?
The worst that I've ever had was somebody else's,
Okay.
not mine.
Okay. What was it?
What company?
What was the flavor?
Oh,
I mean, you can if you want to sell them out, go ahead.
no, I'm not gonna shoot the company down. I'm not gonna.
But
But
what was the flavor?
I don't know. Cherry.
Oh, Kelsey.
What?
Kelsey.
Hey, that comes out of her pay.
Kelsey. See, these are the. So we're gonna have a discussion about this, and then
Yes.
she's gonna be sad for like a month.
That's
you
got to
know?
come out of her pay. No lunch
right.
tomorrow.
What's been the best age so far?
Oh man, so many of them. So I grew up in the '80s, so I got a little bit of the breakdancing. I grew up in the '90s, the golden era of hip hop, so that was cool. But I would say right now,
That's
For
my
the
timer.
love.
I don't need that.
All right, kill the timer.
Kill the
timer's
time.
not. The timer
me
is not
answer
helping
it.
us. You're ruining the show. You're ruining the show.
Rapid fire.
Yeah. So just say it's
great.
10. Say it's 10 seconds. Just say it's 10 seconds.
right now though, I'm enjoying life right now.
Awesome.
You know, I have my here you go. I got a 4-year-old that I watch Elmo with, and I got a 21-year-old that I can drink a beer with.
Awesome.
So I'm really enjoying life right now at 45. Yep.
If you were supreme leader for a day, what law would you put into place?
Oh my gosh. Golf. I get to play golf. Well, everybody gets to play golf.
Let's go, Louis. I'm ready right
Yeah,
now.
right now.
That's great.
Is it?
That's a great law.
Well, just vote for me then.
All right. Your life starts over at 18.
Yep.
You only get to keep one skill. Everything else disappears from memory. What is it?
To help me right now?
Do whatever you want. But you're starting over at 18 with one skill and one skill only. What skill is it?
The salesman, being a salesman, learning how to be a salesman at 18. An all-star salesman, door-to-door vacuum.
All right. What is a stereotype about Greek life that is actually true?
Oh, that Kappas are pretty boys.
Were you a Kappa?
Yeah, I am a Kappa.
Hey, I don't know how this works. I don't know how this works.
Anything about Greek,
Yeah.
except it's something that.
What was it? What was the question I asked you earlier?
You said, I've never met Black Greek.
Oh wow.
So she goes, yeah, he's a Black Greek, and I was like, oh, I've never met a Black Greek before, and
Well,
Fraternity, right?
Fraternity.
yeah,
yeah.
I know. It was just a dad joke. It was
Okay.
just a dad joke. She knew it was a dad joke. All right, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, don't stop. What?
You have to sing.
You have to sing 10 seconds.
Holy crap.
You're supposed to let him answer. You guys jumping in. See, this is Kelsey got all excited because she knows you, so like she's ruining the show. She's just ruining the show. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Probably Rob Bass, It Takes Two.
All right, we need 10 seconds
That's
of
easy.
it.
I want to rock right now. I'm Rob Bass and I came to get down. I'm not internationally known, but I'm known to rock the microphone because I get stupid. I mean outrageous. Stay away from me if you're contagious. All right.
See how I did the 10 seconds and I didn't ruin the show?
You know what? That was perfect.
Uh-oh.
That's it?
That's all you put in the hat.
That's a wrap.
That is a wrap.
That was Julia.
No. That was a wrap.
Yeah.
That was a wrap.
Oh!
There you go.
I can't stand you guys.
Lou Torres, thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Had a great time. I think people probably learned a lot about entrepreneurship, not quitting, and having a positive mindset.
That's it.
Hit them with your socials so we can share this delicious goodness with everybody else.
Sure. If you guys want to place an order or just follow me, or if you want to ask me questions direct, you can reach me at Instagram or Facebook at Coco Chrissy, which is COCOCRISSI. Same thing for the website, www.cocochrissy.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Guys, as always, we appreciate your support. Please feel free to subscribe, like, etc. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.